Hi there, this is Jason Cornell, your host of Totally 80s at 8, every weeknight at 8 p.m. on 102.3 XLC. And thank you for joining us for this special look at the music, the life, and the talent of Prince, who we lost way too soon this past Thursday at the age of 57. Prince, the death of a legend, here on 102.3 XLC.
He bridged generations. He spanned genres. But his name was singular.
My name is Prince, and I am funky. My name is Prince, the one and only.
Prince, fitting, given how he ruled the music world as singer, songwriter, producer, showman, an unrivaled artist. His career began young, raw, and dirty. He became an MTV star. The semi-autobiographical Purple Rain vaulted Prince to international stardom. His soundtrack sold 25 million copies. Prince was an innovator. No album was the same. He was an icon whose name became an icon.
I will now go back to using my name instead of the symbol I adopted as a means to free myself from all undesirable relationships.
Prince Rogers Nelson died this morning at Paisley Park, his legendary recording studio, residence, and performance base in suburban Minneapolis. He was 57. This is Prince, death of a legend. Prince was discovered unresponsive this morning in the elevator of Paisley Park Studios outside Minneapolis. Deputies from the Carver County Sheriff's Department and medical personnel tried to revive him without success. Prince was pronounced dead at 10:07 a.m. Central Time. The medical examiner's office is still investigating the circumstances, but police at the moment do not believe his death to be suspicious. We're told there was no obvious sign of a crime, and the death does not appear to be a suicide. President Obama said today the world lost a creative icon. Few artists, the president said, have influenced the sound and trajectory of popular music more distinctly or touched quite so many people with their talent. Good to have you with us. I'm Aaron Katursky, and we're gathering tonight to remember this pioneering music legend who went too soon. He was still making music and touring and writing. His death stunned. Tearful fans have congregated outside Paisley Park, and ABC's Ryan Burrow is among them. Ryan, good evening.
Good evening. And yes, Aaron, you get to learn here in Minneapolis and the Minnesota area in general that, you know, what Prince meant to this community. He was still doing performances, even up to the week of his death. And the people here really respected him. They loved him. If you flip on any radio station here in the Minneapolis area right now, it doesn't matter if it's a hip-hop station, a rock station, an AM talk station. It's a Prince station tonight. Everyone calling in, with various stories to tell, tributes, many of them crying, just stunned, absolutely stunned, Aaron, that this could happen. A lot of people gathering right now outside the studio, as you mentioned, people hanging Purple Hearts on the fence outside of the studio where Prince was found dead earlier today. And it's been kind of an interesting day weather-wise, too. We've had an interesting mix of a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of rain. Call it ironic, call it symbolism, call it whatever you will, but it's definitely been an interesting and event-filled day here in Minneapolis.
Perhaps a fitting tribute even in the weather. ABC's Ryan Burrow in Minneapolis, or outside Minneapolis at Paisley Park. The biggest names in music were just as shocked as Prince's fans who are gathering where Ryan is. Aretha Franklin spoke to ABC's Tom Yamas.
What do you think it was about his music or his style that really made him transcend both race and the music he was performing?
I think it was just his originality that transcended and went straight across the board. Just one of those things. He was his own artist, and many other artists looked up to him as a musician and singer and writer as well, and producer.
I know you know this. Songwriting is so difficult, and so few can do it so well. And yet Prince wrote hit after hit, and he wrote so many songs still that have not been released. What does it tell you as an artist about Prince that he could write and produce so much music?
Just that he was a natural. It was innate, and he was one of those the kind of artist that kind of lived in the studio. You know what I'm saying? He loved music, and he loved it so much that he was in the studio almost 24/7.
Are there any Prince songs that when you listen to, they just make you want to dance?
Well, anytime he got to the beat, you wanted to get up and move. But I especially like Little Red Corvette. I love that one.
Aretha Franklin's favorite Prince tune. Before the end of her conversation with ABC News, Tom Yamas asked her what made today so sad.
I walked out of the hotel, and the bellman asked me, had I heard about Prince? I said, heard about Prince. And he said, yes, Prince passed today. And it was just a blow, a real blow. What a terrible thing to hear today. He's gone, but his music will live on forever.
Aretha Franklin remembering Prince, as so many are tonight, including those who worked on his unique creative process. Here's ABC's Linda Lopez.
Thanks, Aaron. Owen Husney is a musician, artist manager, and concert promoter, and he was Prince's first manager, and he joins us now. Owen, thanks so much for joining us. My first question, what were your thoughts today when you first heard that Prince had passed away?
Well, the same as my thoughts are now. I am shocked and devastated. I got a call from a Minneapolis television station at about 7:30 this morning, and they said, do I have any response to the fact that they had found a body at Paisley Park? And I said, well, it's obviously somebody fell off the scaffolding, or something happened.
Sure.
You don't need to call me. And they said, well, we're hearing reports that it's Prince, and I just broke out into tears. I still cannot even compute this yet.
What was he like in those early days?
Brilliant. Not only brilliant, but he was driven and focused. He was not fooling around. I never, during the time that I saw him, maybe a sip of wine, no drugs, no alcohol. He was purely focused on his craft and what he wanted to do. And what I noticed about him was a high, very, very high IQ. It's off the scale. I know that Prince has things in his vault at Paisley Park that will be released for years to come, and that we will be unpacking and seeing things musically that he has done for another generation at least.
Do you know if he might have been seriously ill lately?
I had heard rumors, and I know that this thing happened on the plane last week coming back from Georgia, and I knew that he was talking about doing a memoir, which has been announced, and that he had hired someone at Paisley Park to begin to turn it into a tourist attraction like Graceland. I talked to a couple of the band members last week, and I said, this doesn't add up, because memoirs and Graceland are posthumous kinds of things that are done. They're not things you do. And I had heard some rumors, and I am not going to talk about them because I have no idea what's factual and what's not. I'm sure it's going to come out, maybe not, but it's sad. What difference does it make now when we've lost somebody who was an American icon? And I don't even like the word icon. Just somebody who gave it 190,000% of themselves to make people happy.
Owen Husney, thank you so much for joining us. Aaron?
ABC's Linda Lopez with Owen Husney, one of Prince's first managers. We're joined here this evening by Vibe senior editor Keith Murphy. And Keith, how are you remembering Prince?
As a musical giant, as someone that defied his critics, defied his peers, and defied reason. Some of the things that he did, you look back on and say, you got to be kidding me.
We're going to take a look at some of those things as we go on through the night with Keith. We'll have our entertainment editor, Andrea Dresdale, with us all night, and much more to come about how Prince influenced music well beyond his own albums. Stay with us. I'm Aaron Katursky. You're listening to live coverage, Prince, Death of a Legend, from ABC News.
This ABC News special, Prince, Death of a Legend, continues after this. You're listening to a special presentation from ABC News, Prince, Death of a Legend. Once again, here's correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Flamboyant, expressive, larger than life, and gone too soon. Prince died today at age 57. The cause is still not known, but police do not believe it was suspicious. Music journalist Alan Light wrote Let's Go Crazy about the making of Purple Rain. He's with us now. And Alan, how are you remembering Prince tonight?
His ability to combine, soul and funk and rock, to make dance music with loud guitars, to write poetic lyrics over irresistible grooves. He really was just the person who brought together so many different forces, so many different directions in pop music, and really make them into something very, very new.
Not that he was without controversy.
Certainly one thing that differentiated Prince was a very overt sexuality, a really strong erotic component, lots of explicit lyrics and subject matter. Later in his life, he became a very active Jehovah's Witness. What was fascinating about Prince, I think, was that for so many of his predecessors, for Al Green, for Marvin Gaye, there was this real tension between sexuality and spirituality. And I think with Prince, they were all part of the same thing. He embraced all of those sides of himself.
He also embraced, in some ways, an entirely new identity. In 1993, when he changed his name to A Symbol, unhappy with the way his music was being distributed. And Alan, in that way, he seemed to be ahead of his time.
He was at least trying to draw attention to, was there a way to get out of those conventional contracts, to think about different ways to make and release music. In some ways, it kind of made him into a punchline for a while that, people really didn't understand it, and he never, fully shook it, never fully recovered from that in some ways. But, there's no denying that a lot of the issues that he was bringing up and things that he was bringing attention to are things that have become very significant, talking about who controls ownership of recording masters, talking about how music is released and distributed. I mean, those are the things now that are front and center for the industry. And even if he did it in a way that was sort of, got a lot of attention and looked kind of ridiculous at the time, there's kind of no arguing that he was out in front of some of the biggest questions that we now face.
I was struck by the marquee today of Harlem's famed Apollo Theater. The message of remembrance said, "Nothing compares to you," a song we associate with Sinead O'Connor, but written by Prince. And Alan, he wrote for, and maybe more importantly, influenced many.
Well, there's nobody who was making R&B or urban music in his aftermath who wasn't affected by Prince, whether it was Alicia Keys or Outkast, or even Beck, Foo Fighters. I mean, his material was covered by so many different acts, but more than that, the bravery of his music, the fusion of different sounds, the having a rock and roll sound within an urban funk context. There was the impact that Michael Jackson had on a lot of these performers, but there was a different edge and a different impact that Prince has had on, really on all pop music made since his breakthrough.
Alan Light, the music journalist and the author of Let's Go Crazy, the recent biography of Prince and the making of Purple Rain. And Prince really could hit the highest falsetto, the deepest baritone, but it's the voice that he gave to other artists that helped set him apart. Here's ABC's Scott Goldberg.
Aaron, let's start with an artist who, like Prince, rose to fame in the 1980s, thanks mostly to this song.
Nothing compares to you.
That's Sinead O'Connor, of course, performing Nothing Compares to You. Written by Prince, the giveaway might be the spelling of the song's title with the number 2 and the letter U. Kind of a Prince thing. The song turned out to be O'Connor's only number 1 hit, and there are some who would argue she performed it well, but nothing really compares to the way Prince did it.
It's been 13 days since you took
this has kind of become the classic example of Prince making a hit for someone else. Not as many people realize he did it for the Bangles, too.
Just another Manic Monday.
Manic Monday was the Bangles' breakthrough in 1986, again written by Prince, but this time he used the pseudonym Christopher. A couple years before that, there was this one for Shaka Khan. And then there were some artists who never had a hit, but Prince tried, like Tamar. I'm one of the few who can say I saw Tamar live, because when I lived in Minneapolis, word spread quickly one night there was a show at one of the big theaters. A billboard came out of nowhere saying, "Tonight, Tamar," with special guest Prince. He showed up just to do backup vocals and play guitar, and Tamar packed the house. Aaron.
ABC's Scott Goldberg on the influence of Prince far beyond his own catalog, and he was still making music at the time of his death today at age 57. ABC's entertainment editor Andrea Dresdale is with us. They're all good songs that he wrote for others.
I mean, there were many others. For example, there's a song on Cyndi Lauper's breakthrough album, She's So Unusual, that Prince wrote. He co-wrote Stand Back, the huge hit that Stevie Nicks had in the 80s. A lot of people didn't know that. But, he was... It's very funny. I mean, his own music spans so many different genres, and that is very evident in the fact that all these other people recorded his songs. Pray by MC Hammer, he wrote that, and remember The Bird by The Time, one of his sort of protege groups. He wrote that song as well.
We're also joined here tonight by Vibe senior editor Keith Murphy. You listen to not only his, it's just all good.
Yeah, that's the greatness of Prince, is that he's the sneaky artist. He's the guy that you never see coming. He's the guy that, oh yeah, I played the keyboard on Stand Back. Who knew that? He was going to give Purple Rain to her. He wrote Purple Rain for Stevie Nicks. And Stevie Nicks was like, well, I don't really know what to do with this song. It's just so overwhelming, and Prince took it back, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. Everybody seems to think of Purple Rain as being this intense autobiographical song because it was part of the Purple Rain movie and the album, and the movie especially was basically Prince's story. It's very shocking to me to hear you say that he was going to give it to Stevie Nicks. It was such a personal song.
Yeah, his relationship with female artists is very strong. He seems to really connect with female artists, from Vanity, who we just lost this year, Aretha, we just heard her talking, Alicia Keys, who covered How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore.
Sheila E., of course.
Sheila E., of course, big protege, one of his best proteges. I mean, even until now, he was with Janelle Monáe. He championed young artists. That's the great thing about it. This guy did not live in his own greatness. He wanted to give it back.
What made him so generous? Because he just as easily could have shut himself in Minneapolis and said, I'm doing my own thing.
You know how they call a basketball player a gym rat? He's a studio rat. This is a guy that was a pop star by accident. This is not a dude that wanted to be a pop star. Prince would have been very, very cool with just playing in a club somewhere on stage. There's video of him, if you can catch it, of him going on some stage where a regular house band is playing, and he says, "Can I play with you guys?" Regular house band, not even stars, right? He comes on stage, plays the guitar, the best 5 minutes of these people's lives that they ever had.
But he did have a bit of showmanship there. Did anything dazzle quite like his Super Bowl halftime show?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing that we were speaking about this earlier today, that he came into the Super Bowl halftime show during a time that the NFL was trying to pick safer artists, older artists, and then they go and pick Prince. And this is the guy who, started the music lyric controversy of the 80s. Yes. The guy whose videos were so shocking in the 80s, and he was the safe choice. But of course, he had a little bit of controversy with that guitar of his that was a phallic symbol. But I think we would have been disappointed if Prince hadn't at least done something. At least his pants covered up his butt that time.
Yes.
For all the ways he found religion, he did manage to stay true to that original Prince, the bit of dirtiness and controversy that still clung to him throughout his career. Prince died today at 57. Andrea Dresdale's the entertainment editor here at ABC News. And Keith Murphy, Vibe senior editor. I'm Aaron Katursky. We have much more on the life of Prince coming up.
This ABC News special, Prince, Death of a Legend, continues after this. You're listening to a special presentation from ABC News, Prince, Death of a Legend. Once again, here's correspondent Aaron Katursky.
We just heard from Prince's sister, who thanked fans that showed up at Paisley Park outside Minneapolis to mourn his death. She emerged from the compound to look at all the flowers and candles and mementos that fans have left in tribute. Prince was found unresponsive in the elevator that he took from his studio to his residence. Paramedics tried for more than 20 minutes to revive him, but Prince was pronounced dead at 10:07 a.m. Central Time. The cause is now under investigation. With fans, music legends are also mourning Prince, and ABC's Michelle Franzen spoke to one of the many artists that Prince influenced.
Aaron, Nathan Morris is one of the founding members of Boyz II Men, a group that is known for such harmonies and songs over the decades. And Nathan, give us an idea. I noticed something that you tweeted about on social media about Prince. How would you describe what impact he's had on you and the music world?
Well, I mean, for us, he's been a cornerstone of our music. I mean, you know, his harmonies and the things that he did, not just with his instruments, but with his vocals. A lot of people don't really give Prince a lot of credit for, you know, his harmonies and his songs. And those are things that we really, really looked up to and actually pulled a couple pieces from some songs that we actually put on our records that were very successful. So, I mean, very, very integral part of Boyz II Men's music.
All right, when you take us back, give us an idea of what influenced you the most when it came to Prince and his impact on you.
Well, the fact that he was different, the fact that he was a musician. You know, we went to the High School for Creative Performing Arts, so, you know, we learned a lot about, you know, being a true artist. And there are a lot of performers around today, and there are a lot of great performers, but, you know, today we probably lost one of the greatest, you know, musician artists of our time to be one person that's able to do it all.
He really went mainstream, obviously, in 1982 with his album. Give us an idea of what songs you remember off of that, 1999.
Well, obviously, 1999 was huge. And it's funny because, you know, when that song was made, you know, us kids back then would say, well, what's going to happen in 1999? He's probably going to have a big tour and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's almost like when he came out with that record, we as kids were waiting for 1999 to see what was going to happen with the song again, pretty much.
He was a composer. He was obviously a writer and a performer that most of the mainstream know about him. But in the music industry, give us an idea of what artists he touched in terms of maybe composing melodies or helping propel their careers.
Well, I mean, they're almost honestly too numerous to name. There are many people in this business that would not sound the way that they sound without listening to a Prince record or, you know, going to one of his concerts or listening to one of his melodies or one of his guitar lead lines. I mean, it's virtually impossible. There's just so many artists that he's touched.
Nathan, what about any influences on Boyz II Men, musically speaking? Can they find some threads of Prince throughout?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I can tell you one personally. I mean, if you listen to our song, Thank You, you know, there's a musical breakdown in there that we actually pilfered from Prince's song, 7. It's a vocal breakdown that, you know, and it's funny because we told him about it at the time, and, you know, he's one of those that, you know, the influence is all that matters. I mean, you know, you get people get all crazy about you taking parts of their songs, but, you know, he put his songs out there for everybody to be a part of.
Nathan Morris, founder of the all-boys group Boyz II Men, which we all remember as well. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about Prince. Aaron.
ABC's Michelle Franzen, and the opportunity to play just one of his greats. Play it, baby. You heard Michelle talking to one of the many recording artists remembering Prince, just like so many of us outside the industry who just appreciated the genius. I caught up today with actor and comedian D.L. Hughley and asked him how he's remembering Prince today.
You know, the first time I ever saw Prince was at the Soul Festival that was in Los Angeles, and I saw this cat came out. It was these funk groups. He played like he didn't care at all. And the next time, I hadn't seen him for years, until he had the show in Vegas. And I saw him again, and I went, wow, how did I miss this? Because usually it's not. I'm not gonna buy a ticket for a guy with his ass out, but he was so spectacular that after that, I think from that point on, I had seen him 15 times.
I mean, you had this guy with a particular costume,
right?
But a deep thinker and a deep lyricist.
Well, you know what's funny? I think that what we always say, that your art should magnify your perspective, and I think that he the best way I can say it is that everybody has a friend who has a lazy eye, and you start lining yourself up to that vision because you're not sure who they're looking at. Prince was a guy who looked at things so differently that we started having to line up to the way he saw things. And I remember even thugs went to go see Purple Rain. Like Prince had clothes that nobody could wear. Like he had a seamstress because nobody even understood how to wear these things. So it was amazing.
Can you think of anybody else to compare him to, or does he stand alone for you?
I think he does. I think here's the thing. I think I read something. I don't know how true this is, but apparently he's written so much music that he could make albums for the next 10, 20 years. And I think just the way he positions himself in the marketplace, the things that he did. I mean, he now was on that tour where it was just a piano and a microphone. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we were on tour. He did the Oakland Coliseum. He announced that he would play, and the next day it was sold out. And then he announced it again, and 2 more shows sold out. So this cat, I remember for a month, he played at the Forum every day. Who could sell out the Forum every day for $25 tickets? So I've never seen anybody like him, and I think that there's just no, like, we knew where Michael Jackson went. We knew we knew what genre. I just can't say what genre he's from.
He's not easily imitated, and neither is D.L. Hughley, for that matter, who I caught up with earlier today. And we're joined here by ABC News Entertainment editor Andrea Dresdale and Vibe senior editor Keith Murphy. He mentioned Michael Jackson, and there was often a comparison between the two, especially in the 80s when these two were at the pinnacle of their careers.
They were the yin and yang. I did a piece called the Michael Jackson versus Prince Oral History for Vibe some years ago. And the stories from each of their camps, each one wanted what the other had. Prince kind of wanted the super stardom sometimes, right? And Mike wanted to be taken seriously as a songwriter. There's this great story of Michael Jackson with Eddie Murphy, and they're filming a video, and Eddie says, "Oh, I really want to work with Prince. You know, he's a great artist." And Mike's like, "Yeah, he's a true genius." And then about 5 seconds later, he says, "But I'm better." And Prince would do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about artists ruling the 80s, there was Michael Jackson and there was Prince. And Michael Jackson might have been the person who kind of broke through on MTV, broke the color barrier. But Prince on MTV was a whole other thing. I mean, when we saw him, we didn't know if he was a man or a woman, if he was black or white. And the things that he was wearing, I mean, it was insane. But it's like that, and to see those images beamed into households across the country, I mean, it really helped to bring white and black music fans together because he was so deft at mixing. He played guitar, which is not really at that point a big instrument in black music. It was known as a white thing, but he mixed that with funk and with R&B and with pop, and he just created this blend that really, I think, equally appealed to black and white music fans. Would you agree?
Yeah, the greatness of Prince is that he was everything you wanted him to be. Did you want him to be a rock star? Check. Did you want him to be a bluesman? Check. Was he a balladeer? Check. Was he the person that you did not want your parents knowing that you listened to? You hid Prince albums. That Dirty Mind album cover is ridiculous. He's got a Flashers trench coat, bikini broths. He's looking at you like, I'm up to no good and your parents will hate me. That's what a rock star is supposed to be.
And also, I feel like, especially in the image-conscious 80s, I mean, he could be loved. Girls and boys could crush on him. You know, he had that androgynous appeal.
Andrea Dresdale, Keith Murphy from Vibe. I'm Aaron Katursky. We're remembering Prince, who died at age 57. And he could play guitar, too. There's so much to say, and we're going to say more of it as we continue our special coverage, Prince, Death of a Legend. I'm Aaron Katursky, and you're listening to live coverage from ABC News.
This ABC News special, Prince, Death of a Legend, continues after this. You're listening to a special presentation from ABC News, Prince, Death of a Legend. Once again, here's correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Prince appeared before an intimate gathering of fans just this past Saturday, and he played what ended up being his final show in Atlanta just a couple of days before that. Melissa Ruggieri, the music critic for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, was at that show. And Melissa, I can't imagine it ever crossed your mind that concert would be his last.
No, I did not. I never would have imagined. It's really hard to believe that exactly a week ago I was at that concert, and now we get this news today that Prince is no longer with us.
How was the show?
The show was amazing, and even though the style of the show was his piano and microphone tour, so it was just Prince on stage with a piano and some candles and a microphone. It was so great to be in an intimate environment with him at the Fox Theater, and he was doing very stripped versions of his songs. He was taking songs like Little Red Corvette and combining them with the Peanuts theme, a Linus and Lucy song, and going back deep into his catalog and pulling out stuff from a 2001 album that you might not have expected to hear something from, or doing Nothing Compares to You, which everyone knows as a Sinead O'Connor hit, but obviously is Prince's song. And he sounded great. His voice was in perfect form. I mean, the range, it was just stunning, the notes that he was able to hit. He did sound a little nasally when he spoke, and I mentioned that in my review, that maybe they were the remnants of what he had been dealing with, the flu, the week before, but there was absolutely no indication that there was something severely wrong with him.
It sounds as if he was almost playful, the way you described the show.
He was. He didn't talk a whole lot, but he would get up after every few songs and make a lap around the stage or around his piano and go toward the front of the stage and wave to fans. And he talked a little bit about his dad teaching him about funk music and when he first started to play the piano. So there were those glimpses into, Prince, the very private guy, which I think most people there really appreciated, because usually when you go to a Prince show, it's a huge spectacle and he's running around the stage, and this was a much quieter environment. But it was really such a special night, and obviously now, the way people are going to feel if they were in attendance there, just indeed how special it was. And on the way out, you were able to get a copy of his Hit and Run album, the CD. They were actually handing out copies of an actual CD, and I know that I'm going to cherish my copy of it, and I'm sure everybody else who was there is going to do the same.
Melissa, best moment, best song for you?
Probably Pop Life. It's always been a favorite song of mine, and the way he performed it, he really stripped it down, and it was just a cool way to hear it. And then he kind of did a double shot of I Would Die For You and Baby I'm a Star, and that's when you really saw Prince the Showman come out, and getting just that glimpse of his performance capability, and he sounded so good on everything. That's really what's going to stick with me.
Melissa Ruggieri was at what ended up being Prince's last concert in Atlanta just a week ago. And Prince has died at the age of 57. He could play guitar like Jimi Hendrix. He could sing like James Brown. He could lay down grooves like Sly and the Family Stone, but there is no mistaking the sound of Prince. We're remembering his life, mourning his death, and we have much more to come. Word is there's a rainbow over his studio now outside Minneapolis. I'm Aaron Katursky. You're listening to live coverage from ABC News.
This ABC News special, Prince, Death of a Legend, continues after this. You're listening to a special presentation from ABC News, Prince, Death of a Legend. Once again, here's correspondent Aaron Katursky.
To his fans, the words still shock. Prince has died. It happened this morning at his compound outside Minneapolis, where ABC's Matt Wolf tells us fans are in mourning.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
Prince was many things to his fans: legend, innovator, trailblazer. Today, they gathered outside of Paisley Park, the suburban Minneapolis home and studio of Prince, to mourn the passing of one of the 20th century's most influential artists.
As a very young kid, I always wanted to move to Minnesota, live in Minnesota, and it was partly because of Prince.
For Dwight, it was that kind of personal impact that made him a lifelong fan of Prince. His career spanned nearly 40 studio albums and countless amount of concerts, but here at Paisley Park, it was not only the site for Prince's work, but also the scene of many late-night intimate shows put on by Prince, and for Dwight, it was something very special.
You know, we would get inside, we'd wait, and Prince maybe come out and do one or two songs after we wait a couple hours, but that was it, and that's all we needed, and it was great.
For local fans, Prince was the North Star State.
You think of the state of Minnesota, one of the first things you think of is Prince.
That's Cy Huff, Minneapolis DJ and announcer for the Minnesota Lynx women's NBA team, and simply put, Huff thinks Prince's music defines his generation.
Music wouldn't be the same without it. Our city wouldn't be the same without it. You think back to your childhood, and there's that whole Michael Jackson, Prince thing, and it's our generation, it's our era.
The makeshift memorial continues to grow outside of Paisley Park, where in the coming days we'll no doubt see plenty of celebrations of Prince's life and work. But for this fan, who asked not to be identified, this was their Prince, who helped put Minnesota on the map.
That Minnesota sound that he's so well known for, a lot of people identify with that. They identify with the artist as a person and just a pure musician.
Aaron?
Matt Wolf with some of the fans of Prince who are remembering him. He died at age 57. And I want to get some final thoughts from our entertainment editor, Andrea Dresdale, and Vibe senior editor, Keith Murphy. This is someone who's changed. He's a bit of a chameleon in his life.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the guy who's on the cover of the Dirty Mind album, where he's half naked, he's recording songs that are, would make anyone blush. And then in later years, he became a very spiritual guy. He became a very devout Jehovah's Witness. And he removed those sort of more dirty things from his music. And then in recent years, he seems to have found a social conscience.
Yeah, I mean, the guy always wrote socially conscious songs, but maybe over the last 5 or 6 years, he's kind of got a little bit more militant, He kind of got a little bit more in your face. The Freddie Gray murder, he decided, I have to write a song about it called Baltimore. Oh, and let's do a concert and give the money to the community. Let's sell out a place in 5 minutes that holds 15,000 people and give all the money to the community. It's incredible the changes that he went through.
Keith Murphy's the senior editor at Vibe. Andrea Dresdale's the ABC News entertainment editor. Prince, a dazzlingly talented singer, songwriter, and guitarist, died at his home after a career of creating a gender and genre-defying blend of rock, funk, and soul. I'm Aaron Katursky. You've been listening to a special presentation from ABC News.
Without a doubt, Prince is a true legend and gone way too soon. But he's immortal now, thanks to his music, and his legacy will live on. This is Jason Cornell, and I hope you'll join me every single weeknight at 8 o'clock for Totally 80s at 8, where we do feature Prince music and all of your favorite 80s songs. It's right here on 102.3 XLC.